You know we are a tech company when we can be in India and in South Africa at the same time. He's an inspiration to talk to. I was really amazed by his business acumen. His experience as a strategic leader is unique and extraordinary. His communication approach is brilliant and he's really funny. He's a results-driven leader with a proven track record of success. He told us that it gets extremely lonely at the top, but it's far lonelier during a global pandemic, which I really found to be very thoughtful. Please help me welcome Himanshu Jadhav. I think as industry leaders, you guys often get the question how you guys are doing, but I don't think you actually ever answer the question honestly. You're just answering it to pass by. And so I'm very interested in how are you feeling? So if you were to describe how you've been feeling in the past week with a word, how are you guys feeling?
You go first, Himanshu.
Yanesh, you should go first, Yanesh.
Okay, I'll take it. Well, I don't need to describe the last week. I can tell you my morning. So my wife has gotten really sick. She's got a bad stomach bug. Unfortunately, the lady that helps us at home, her mum was sick. So she had to go and attend to her mum. So this morning I woke up to a 2.5-year-old, had to get her ready, help my wife out and get her to school. She didn't want to get in the car, completely crying because my wife normally takes her to school and it's out of routine. Missed my 8 o'clock meeting, had to shift things around so I could catch my meetings. And I'm here with a smile, excited to chat to Himanshu about how's it going in India.
And Himanshu, yourself?
I had an extremely pleasant morning. I came in late last night from Delhi, was meeting customers in North India side, flew back late last night, was exhausted like hell, slept off like a baby, woke up in the morning fresh, had some breakfast, porridge, drove peacefully to the factory, and the peace kind of vanished when I entered the factory. Because I hadn't been in the factory. I hadn't seen the factory for the last 2-3 days, and then I was on the floor, and I was supposed to, again, I also missed my morning meeting. I was supposed to go and have a meeting upstairs in my office with my management, but the whole time was just on the floor. So yeah, wow. Started off peacefully, went up, down, and then it has come down again.
But does the burden of pressure and the kind of responsibility that you guys carry on a day-to-day ever feel normal?
I don't know. I think it's. I think the way I would answer the question is that if it wasn't there, it wouldn't feel normal. But when you're going through it, it doesn't feel normal. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So for the layman's man to know, it doesn't go away.
No, it doesn't go away. It depends.
I don't know.
If it's consistent, right?
If you ask me personally, if it goes away, what would I do? What would I do if it goes away?
It feels abnormal when it's gone, right?
It's like the devil's mistress. You need her, but not so close, but you don't want to go away as well. You just like, exactly. She has to be there, but not so close, not so far. When she's there, you want her to go away, and when she's not, you want her to be with you. So it's like that. So you really can't.
The devil's mistress.
Yes.
So is it going to be that kind of podcast?
Well, I asked you. I was told that I can speak my mind free.
Exactly. Cool. So Himanshu, I think obviously one of the goals of the podcast and what we hope to achieve with the audience is that they try and learn from our guests' experiences. And you being the first Jendamark guest, I think is a really unique opportunity for us to really talk through your journey. How's it been? Maybe just talk us through from Himanshu as a 12-year-old running around, and how you're now the CEO of a global enterprise delivering amazing technology to the rest of the world. Just give us the quick summary.
Thanks, Yanesh. So I am like a outsider on the inside. So that's good to know. So it's a good start. So like a 12-year-old, I think I was pretty much into dismantling things and putting them together again, mechanical stuff. So I'm a mechanical engineer. So I did the same stuff when I was, I think, since 6 years old. Grew up in a typical middle class Indian family where education and studies are prime important and extremely clear. Everyone has been told very clearly what you're supposed to do. I was a bit of a offshoot, I would say, because in my family everyone was civil engineers doing in the construction business, and I had my passion for machines and automotive, so I went towards mechanical engineering. Joined Tata Motors as a fresher out of college. Spent 5 years there. Then joined Volkswagen, like Yanni was also there for almost 8 years. I was there, and then that's when actually in the middle of Volkswagen journey I came across Jendamark and Yanesh primarily as well, and that's when our friendship grew, not as how we work as colleagues today, but as friends before, and that's how it has been so far. And I think it's been phenomenal in last, or it's been now, this is my 6th year in Jendamark, and I am honestly, I'm very proud that we have been able to do what we all thought that Jendamark India could do in 2016 when I joined. So it's somehow, I think we are still not there, but I think we're at the cusp of that position where we can now just trigger off from that point. So we have pulled the bow as far as we could, and now we are ready to release it. That's where I always feel myself at.
Wow. So Himanshu, I think that, well, your story is really, really powerful. When I think about all the components that contribute to a successful business or enterprise, there are many things that make a successful business. And one of the ones that I'm very interested in from your perspective is that you come from India, and cultural background is very important. I recently moved to PE, and when I got here, the culture was different, and it was very difficult to navigate. So I wanted to know, how did you navigate the different cultures from Germany to America to South Africans, and still manage to do business with people from a different cultural experience?
Yes, to be very honest, yes, there are cultural differences, but I normally try to focus on cultural similarities. So if you look at any culture, whether it's from Germany, Europe, anywhere in East Europe, US, Japan, we work with a lot of Southeast Asian countries as well. There are going to be cultural differences which are, I would say, 10-15% differences, but I still strongly believe almost 80-85% of the culture is similar. So for example, if you take any culture, they will always propagate, you should speak the truth, you should be honest, you should never lie, you should take care of your colleagues, you should take care of your family. Everyone likes to have the same sort of things in their own culture. Everyone is taught the same things in the culture. And I rather focus on the cultural similarities than the differences. Of course, we have to be conversant to the differences in terms of the religious beliefs maybe, or to the ethics of the country. But looking at the cultural similarities has really helped me gel well and bond instantaneously with everyone across different geographies. And one more addition I can say, maybe apart from the cultural similarities or differences, I try to find, and I have learned from Yanesh here himself, he's been the guru in that, is the personality traits. And I strongly believe more than cultural situation, the personality trait is more key important in a business, because in every culture you still have different kind of personalities. It would be too naive to say all Indians are same, all South Africans are same, all US guys are same, although they come from the same culture. But it's the personality that differentiates them from everyone else, or that's the individual point of view which they have as a personality trait. And I've learned it from Yanni, and like I said again, to try and identify what kind of person he or she is. And I think once you identify and relate to that, and you then become more comfortable, and the person in whom you are dealing with also becomes a lot more comfortable, because you understand the personality. When I used to first deal with South Africans, it's typical of South Africans to be very upfront. They are very straightforward. A black is a black, a white is a white. There's no grey line in between. That's what I've learned from Germans as well, and the US guys as well. Whereas now if you look at, typically if you talk to Indians, and Yanesh will, I'm sure, nod his head, there is always a, we as, so what I can see is, as a culture, we are quite not so, we don't like to say no to anyone or anything. We always want to say yes, maybe, could be, we'll try. There are very few people who would say a strong yes or a strong no. That's why we get this, the Indian nod, very famous, that we don't know really what's going to happen. And that actually I had to deal, being from India, I had to deal with that cultural issue in India a lot more, because it's difficult to make people to understand and commit. And I think that's what I would say, that more than culture, I look at the personality side, and that has helped me so far to navigate my way through different geographies.
Yeah. No, Himanshu, I think you do an amazing job for that, and I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit for that.
Thank you.
I think it's part of why I think you've been so successful. But maybe if I can ask a specific question. So if I could say there's a particular German organization. Let's just use Germany and India as an example, because you worked at Volkswagen, so you have this experience. And you had to give a German person advice on how to do business in India. What would you give them? And then the same way around, what would you give an Indian person advice on how to do business in Germany? Maybe answer those two questions, because I think you have a unique insight in that you understand both scenarios really well.
Right.
And I think people will really benefit from your thinking, because you've been successful at it.
Yes. No, thanks, Vinny. So definitely from my years of experience in working in Volkswagen, I can for sure tell you that if a German company wants to enter India and do business in India, they need to be very clear of the Indian mindset and try to understand, are they communicating clearly enough? Because the way things are in Germany, you can ask a person a question and you would get a definitive answer, whereas in India you could get options for answers. So you have to really be very clear about. So what I would normally say, and when we also spoke a lot to a lot of Germans coming into India, even in Jendamark India now, and they ask us the same question: how did you become successful in India? You're not a typical Indian organization. You're a global company, and how do you do business in India with Germans, non-Germans as well? And I've always told them that please keep your expectations real. Don't get annoyed or upset, because there's a huge difference in personalities in Indians and Germans. For example, communicate clearly what you want and what you expect, and make sure the other person has understood it. Because most of the times we have realized, especially with Indians, is we tend to not ask enough questions to get our understanding clear, and we tend to assume things, and we all know what happens when you assume things. So that would be my advice to any German company, that please try and communicate clearly, try to make sure you have put your point across, and if all of that is very difficult, find a good Indian who can do that for you. So if that would also work, then if you can find a good Indian who can do that for you, then your job's half done. On a reverse way, answering your second part of the question, Yanesh, if you have to enter Germany from India, I think first and foremost, we as Indians, I would say, have to be very, very clear about the German mindset again, it's a box. For me, it's a box. Of course, the box should be much bigger, but they work in set guidelines and principles. There is less of flair and flamboyance, which comes typically from South Africa or from India. There's more of structured, organized way towards success. There is our way of working, whereas from Germany, whereas from India or South Africa, we are used to a flair and flamboyance, which is in our nature. Our culture, like we spoke before, our culture is loud, colorful. We like emotions, we like expressions. Whereas, and then when you try and do that in Germany, they go into a shell. They don't know how to react, because for generations or years now, decades, they have not got used to this kind of exchange. So Indians entering Germany, I would advise them to tone down a bit, keep it more practical, keep it more pragmatic, speak less, speak clearly, and try to make sure that you're not getting overly excited, because that sometimes I have seen turns off people and they turn back, and they don't really understand why are you so excited about something. yeah, I think that would be the way for me in the crisscross business process.
Yeah, I think I would add one thing is one thing I've learned in doing business with a lot of our Indian colleagues and Indian customers, and I've learned this from Himanshu, is that you have to be quite careful with how you tell somebody they've made a mistake.
Yeah.
Whereas in South Africa, I mean, we've had multiple conversations. I say, Goodwill, I don't like that. You've told me you don't like that, and we're okay with it. But in India, it's a different culture. I think people can almost take it personal because there's this real not need, but everyone wants to do well. Everyone wants to do the right thing. Everyone wants to serve their customer or whatever that is. And if you say in a harsh way, that's wrong, that's shit, or whatever it is, people get very offended. And so Himanshu's kind of told me to be a little bit more calmer and say you have to tell the person that they've done something incorrectly, but I think there's a different way you go about actually saying that, and that's something I think Himanshu's been trying to teach me for about 7 or 8 years now. I'm almost there.
Almost there.
What really is interesting for me from this company Jendamark is that there's tech. In fact, our slogan is tech and people, and I think the similarity between South Africa and India is that there's a lot of people, right? So in India we have about 1.3 billion people. In South Africa it's 55 million. And so Yanesh always talks, especially in his 4IR video, he talks about how there's a lot of potential within the pyramid of people, the pool of people that we have in these countries. But the question that I have is, how do you turn that potential into something that is going to be of value, taking into consideration how people think, right? Because the psychographics of a person really do determine if they are your customer or not. So from a tech perspective, can tech alone solve or unleash the potential or the pool of potential that is at the bottom half of the pyramid?
100%. And if you want an example, it's India. India is a real example of how it is the tech hub of the world. Every big organization has a R&D center in India, and that's because there's a high, and Himanshu, you can add, he would understand this better than what I would, but there's a big culture of education, as Himanshu alluded to earlier. Every family wants to educate their child at any cost. I'd rather not eat today, but send my child to the right school. So, and that is evolved over the last many years into this highly skilled, highly educated workforce that's actually delivering software to the rest of the world. And I think unemployment rates in India are significantly low. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's like 10% or something, Himanshu.
It's gone much better in the last few years.
Yeah, and salaries are going up for highly skilled people in India. COVID has helped a lot of the software people work remotely, so they're earning US salaries but based in India. So if we, from an African perspective, want to take an example of a country, it's in India. And all they did was, there's a culture of education, and they've given basically internet to almost everyone. And so the culture has evolved over time, obviously. But for me, it's the example we should be following. I don't know, Himanshu, if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think precisely what Yanesh mentioned. We always had a strong emphasis on education since the school days, since the 50s, 60s. Education was always considered as a very important aspect to make a headway in your career. So always everyone was getting educated. I think in the recent few years, technology in terms of digital technology actually has really shot up our aspirations. And of course, when you have an aspiring population, like the same population pyramid which we refer to, we have a huge young population. And now the young population is unlike our generation, if I can say. I hate saying that, but unlike our generation.
Yeah, you are getting old, Himanshu. We know.
I can see some few white hair. I saw that yesterday as well. So
only yesterday did you see it?
Yeah, no, I just saw it yesterday. So no, when I see and we have got an average age in Jendamark India less than 30 still. So we still are a very young company. And when I talk to a lot of young guys in our company and I see the aspiration levels, they come forward with significant ideas. And when we ask them, oh, where do you learn this from? It's always something to do with internet. They'll go and Google across somewhere. They'll go and access something. They will learn from the interactions with local student communities. And I think that kind of tells us there are so many now startups, and India has now become, I think, the cradle of startups in the world. So we have so many young guys who work in the day, and in the nights they are doing their own startup business. So that's a kind of a culture which really helps the technology embracement to be much more. So they want to show something unique which they have created, they have thought of, and they want the world to see it. And I think it's a very good place to be in at this point of time. Thankfully, our economy is stable and it's growing. COVID really has significantly helped us embrace technology. Nowadays, when we, like for example, we wouldn't be having such conversations, or we wouldn't think of even a local roadside vendor who sells cigarettes also accepting digital payments, and we can order digitally before you go there. So this is a thing which has revolutionized India in last 2 or 3 years, I feel a lot. And I think this is, like I said, it's just a cusp. We are in that point where it's just going to take off from here now.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. So in my opinion, India should be the benchmark for Africa. How would you contrast the culture specifically towards education that Himanshu described with where we are?
I think it's very different. I think in South Africa, from my experience, the value of education is decreased. People just don't want to get educated anymore. And I think the discouragement is coming from, yes, if I am educated, where will I find a job? So you find a lot of people who are demotivated to go to school or finish school because they're like, even if I did, there's no way I'm going to go. And even if I get something, the labor rates don't justify that I could do something myself. And so I think from just understanding the cultural values in India, the culture, from what I'm hearing, is pushing people to get education, and education is very valuable. From a South African perspective, I think it is valuable, but not as valuable as it is in India, and that's the difference that I've noticed.
Yeah. And Guru, any thoughts on? It's maybe an unfair question, but how do we fix that, or should we fix it? Is there an alternative? Because certainly we've got 75% youth unemployment.
Yeah. So it's I'm on two hats. On one hat, I think, yes, people need to be motivated to go to school and finish and get educated. And on the other hand, I'm thinking that maybe education is not the solution for everyone, right? Especially how it is structured as it stands. I do also think that education as a system has been the only system that is in place that has been able to advance as many people, because it doesn't matter to develop a system that caters for the 20 and then it leaves the 80% out, because not everybody's going to be an entrepreneur. And so I don't know, I'm on two hats. I think the most basic answer is I actually don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah. It is a difficult
I think if I can suggest something, you have to start at some point. It's a cycle. You need education to get good jobs, and then you also, when you're getting education, you need to have surety you will get a good job. So it's like a catch-22, but you have to start at some point. And of course, you can't, and I feel the easiest option is to start on education, because if you have an educated pool of employees, and India had the same problem. I think in the 90s, there was a lot of brain drain. A lot of people got educated in India, but there were not enough jobs. And we had exodus of employees leaving India to the States. And from what I hear
now, the CEOs of the big tech companies in India, right?
Yes. Exactly, and now everyone from Microsoft, Google, they're all heading the organizations are from India, who left India in the early 90s or mid 90s. And now what we are seeing since last 10 years, it's a cycle back, because now the money is coming in again. The money, like Yanesh mentioned, we have good salaries coming up in India for a developing country. And now people are now not worried about the day-to-day expenses, if I can say, for everyone. So they are thinking of like being not just an entrepreneur, but how can I improve my value of life? Not just quality of life, but value of life. And then that's what is, so you have to start some point, and that's what is happening. I think what you are experiencing in South Africa, and Yani, I was actually wanting to pose this question to both of you as well, is the brain drain that we are hearing from South Africa, and everyone is leaving South Africa to Europe and US. We had the same problem in the 90s. It was called the brain drain from India. But luckily, I think we have come around it, and we have now a situation where people want to be in India after getting educated as well. Are you worried about what's happening in South Africa? Does it feel disconcerting to you that somebody's every weekend somebody is leaving South Africa? And could you just throw some light for us at what's happening, why is it happening, and maybe it is something which we can do something about, or should it be left to natural course of correction?
So I can answer the second part first. I don't know the answer and what to do. That's the honest truth. With the first part of your question, it is hugely concerning, and it's not only from a Jendamark perspective, but as a South African perspective, the number of people that are leaving is astronomical, and obviously the people that leave are the people that are highly educated, that have been adding value to our economy for the last number of years, and they now obviously leave, which is a massive problem. But that's also a reflection of how many people want to leave. So only a small percentage have the opportunity to leave. So if, I don't know, 2% are actually leaving, the number of people that actually want to leave is significantly higher, which is even worse, because those people are now living here in a negative mindset, wanting to go and do something else, but they don't have an option. They have to stay here and work in South Africa. So yeah, I think that it's seriously disconcerting. As a business owner, it also throws the challenges of us losing key talent. And one thing COVID has definitely taught us is this idea of remote work. So a number of guys and girls that would have potentially left us to different countries now actually work for us in those remote countries. And actually, there's significant benefits to that because we have a local presence in that particular country. Ireland, the UK, Germany. We've got a number of Jendamark employees working for us in multiple places, and so they can access new customers. So from a Jendamark perspective, I think we are handling it okay. But from a purely South African perspective, I don't want to bullshit you and tell you that there's some holy grail story and this is what we need to do to fix it. It's a serious problem, and it starts with the mindset. And yeah, I wish I had a positive answer for you, but yeah, it would be bullshit if I told you some positive answer.
I like Yanesh's answer very much. I think that actually I saw this article, I could have even heard it from Yanesh himself, that says that tech is improving and it's maturing at a very incredible rate. However, people are still the same people that they've always been a century ago. And I think that when you look at a person, once a person loses hope of anything, then they are very discouraged to do anything. So I think that when you're in South Africa, I for one am one of the people that could not wait to leave the country. And also I'm just like a compilation of all the wrong things. I'm also the one to not believe in education, traditional education at least. But the reason for me to want to leave is because of that hope, to think that, I've had a dream, and will I have to struggle because of the politics of the country or the economy of the country, like literally going down, and the corruption within the country and all of those things, and you think that the opportunity cost or the alternative would be greater if you were in a different country. And I've always said to many of my friends, had I been American, I'd like to believe I would be more successful than I am today. And it's that kind of hope that drives talented or skilled people to think that maybe there are other opportunities elsewhere, as opposed to sticking and waiting that a savior is going to come and save you. And so this is why I think that people leave and go to other places. And it has to be concerning for business owners. But I think that concern is also very important, because then it means that they have to act so that they can retain the people if they can.
Yeah.
Look,
the one thing I do disagree with.
No, go ahead, Yanesh.
Sorry, Himanshu. The one thing I do disagree with is that if you were in America, you'd be more successful. I don't think that's the case.
No, exactly.
I think
I was at the exact point that I don't think so. That's a perception, because the grass always seems greener on the other side.
I think your mindset determines your success, irrespective of the location.
Yeah.
So if you if you were in South Africa with a negative mindset, you wouldn't be successful. If you were in the US with a negative mindset, you wouldn't be successful.
Absolutely.
I guess depending on what your definition of success is, some locations might be easier than others, but 80% of it is your mindset and your willingness to fight through those difficult challenges. You can be handed a business on your lap and mess it up completely.
Precisely.
Absolutely.
Look, Goodwill, I can tell you from my personal experiences, and I'm sure Yanesh also, in his younger days, if I can say, had opportunities, and I also had opportunities to settle in Europe somewhere and move out of our, at that point, developing economies, which we are still developing, but I think we were way back in the early 2000s. And I think we chose to, like exactly what Yanesh mentioned, we chose to make a difference. And now I see, and that's one of the positive drivers for me always, because a lot of times I get asked this question, what brings you out of bed every day to do what you do? And I think the biggest motivator for me is the 250 people who work in Jendamark India, their families, and the responsibility which comes with that. And I'm sure the same with Yanesh and all the other guys as well, is you tend to have a sense of responsibility now towards what you have created, because people look up to you for solutions. And I think it's also because there's one cultural similarity which I have seen in South Africa and India, because only last years I haven't been there, but actually I be there at least 3 or 4 times a year, is people actually look for leaders a lot in our countries. They want to have an inspirational, inspiring leader to follow. Whether it's right, wrong, good, bad is not the question, but they want an inspirational leader. And I think the responsibility is to the younger generation as well to become these leaders to inspire the next generation. And if everyone then tries to do a bit to stick around and try to make a difference, the reversal will surely happen. It happened in India. I'm sure it will happen in South Africa as well.
So, in response to Yanesh and you, Himanshu, here's the question: If Mark Zuckerberg was a South African and was particularly a South African, a black South African, do you think Facebook could have been what it is? Same Mark Zuckerberg in South Africa.
If you started Facebook here,
Yes.
no.
And that is
No.
the reason why I'm saying if I was in the US, I would be more successful.
No. So I think that you have to take the Elon Musks, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Steve Jobs out of the equation and look at the rest.
I think,
because there are those let's call them unicorns that are there.
Yes.
But the likelihood of any of us being one of those unicorns is very, very low. We may want to be and dream about it and all that stuff, but realistically, it's unlikely. So I think that saying that Mark Zuckerberg could only be successful in the US is not a correct statement, because I think you can be. Look at Jendamark. Is Jendamark successful?
Yes.
And
Relatively successful. Yes.
Yeah, relatively successful. Do you get more lower in Africa than where we are sitting right now?
No.
Do we get further? Okay, maybe Pune is further away from Silicon Valley, right? But you don't get a hub in Pune and a place in Port Elizabeth further away to Silicon Valley, yet we can be successful.
I also do think that if Jendamark was in the US, it would be 10 times more powerful as it is right now. Relatively.
Maybe, Yanni, a simpler question before we answer this one would be, what's your definition or parameter of success?
Yeah.
I think that actually is the, because I don't know, the way you relate success to could be Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. The way maybe and if I can also take a cue from what I know Yanesh for the last 12 years now, is success is not measured in terms of how powerful you are. For me, success, and I'm sure even for Yanni, it would be, success is the ability to inspire and motivate others to become successful. For me, it's not about how powerful I can become to or have my name in the Forbes 50, because I go across India now and I've come across hugely successful businesses unheard of, not known. People don't know even from forget the country, even out of their state. But the success that they have measured is not in terms of the money in the bank or the share value, but in the terms that they have understood that being successful is not those numbers only, but being successful is delivering value. It could be in terms of education, in terms of industries, in terms of jobs, in terms of a livelihood, in terms of so many other aspects which make a business known as successful. Of course, and I think the byproduct of all this is, of course, the numbers. And then again, that's the same question, the relativity of success. What do you really, you will have the small percentage which will make the billions and billions, but there are actually millions who make the millions. And we should not just get disappointed, I would say, or dejected, but oh, we are not the Mark Zuckerbergs. But I can still tell you there are 100,000 smaller Mark Zuckerbergs in India who collectively would be more value to one Facebook. And I think that's why it's our definition of success, which we must try and make an understanding of and work towards becoming successful.
So let me ask a counter question.
Okay.
Do you think if Mark Zuckerberg lived in Port Elizabeth with our negativity, negative growth rate, no skills, unstable labor, political instability, I mean, interest rates at ridiculous levels at the bank, would be able to design and build a machine and send it to Germany?
No.
So what's your
No.
definition of success?
So I think the definition of success is it could be many things, but let's make it one.
So am I more successful than Zuckerberg?
No, 100% Yanesh, hands down.
But I could do that.
No, I contest.
With my
hands
with
down,
our team.
Yeah.
But he
Hands
couldn't.
down, Yanesh, you're more successful.
I definitely agree with you, Yanesh. I do. However, when you look at companies like Apple, when you look at companies like Facebook, you cannot take away what they've done on a global scale. And if the story of this company you're talking about, Jendamark, us, right? If we did what we did, which is remarkable from a South African perspective, but when you go to the US and you compare yourselves to listed companies, you from that perspective, it's not a fair comparison. And as a result, you cannot then say that you are more successful than the Ubers or the Apples and the Facebooks. It's an unfair comparison.
We make more profit than Uber.
Well, I can't know that.
No, it's the truth. Uber's not yet profitable. They're listed, they have a big value, but they're not as profitable.
The profit, the bottom line.
So again,
I learned it from.
Let's agree to disagree.
Yeah.
The definition of success is subjective.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So that's the point.
Absolutely.
Right?
But the area, a person is the sum total of the area and the environment that they're in, or they allow themselves to be.
Well, the internet allows you to be a much wider area. Yes, if you include the internet.
Yes, but the population we're talking about from India and a South African perspective, most of those people don't have the infrastructure to be in the internet to start with.
Yeah.
So for those people, they are a sum total of the instability, the political riots, and all of those things.
Yeah.
And it is
So
unfair
Goodwill,
for them to be told that they could be the Zuckerberg, because they won't.
Yeah.
Unless they change, which is what I did. I left from Pretoria to Joburg to PE. And if I want to be more successful, it's from PE to the States. That's how it goes.
That's how you think it goes.
That's
Let's
what
leave it
you
at
have been.
that.
Yeah, exactly. But let's leave it. Let's leave it for now. Because I think one small topic on, because we have been talking about cultural exchange and all. I think Yanni already knows, and it's good that what Jendamark is doing, being from two developing countries, we are sending students across both countries and helping them understand the cultural differences, to see the way each country is performing under the situation it's being currently in. And I think in a small way, it's a very small thing, but I'm very excited about this start of process. And when I'm in meetings with universities from South Africa, from India, from Jendamark South Africa as well, and when we talk, it's amazing to every time have this positive vibe and the excitement from the universities and the students to learn and understand. And I think that's a very key factor, that they're not just shrugging it off as just one more travel around the world. But when we will actually have this program where we'll have students flying across and spending weeks and weeks in each country, we take care of most of the stuff for them. I think it will start a trend to start looking differently. Maybe the next Goodwill might want to come to India to become the Zuckerberg of India and not go to US. So who knows? And that's what we are trying to look at. Let's see. Maybe somebody from India wants to be the Yanesh in South Africa. So that's the whole thought process that we are trying to propagate as well. So that was the short take from my side, Yanni, on this.
Yeah, I guess, Himanshu, we're showing our age.
Yes. So Yanni, age brings me to the next question. Now I would like to ask Yanesh. I rarely get this chance, Goodwill, to ask a question to Yanesh. And I think that's, now that you have given this opportunity, I wouldn't let it go at all. Yanni, what drives you out of your bed every day?
Yeah. I was fortunate 2 weeks ago to play golf with Gary Player. I don't know if you know Gary Player.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, he's like probably the 5th best golfer that's ever lived. From a money perspective, he's won 9 majors, 3 masters. Like, you don't get a chance to talk to a person, let alone play golf with a person like that. And we had the honor of actually having dinner with him, and I actually sat across the table from him.
Wow.
And I quizzed him with a whole bunch of questions. And I asked him, ironically, the same question. So what drives you? And his answer to me was, he doesn't know. He says he's got this energy inside of him, and his whole life he's been trying to figure out why he's got this energy. What is it? And he just doesn't know. I'll answer your question, but I actually don't know. I'll tell you what I think it is at this point in time. But if I look back in my life, it's probably different things, and I expect it to change as I go forward. And where I am at this point in time, it's I don't know. I have this overwhelming sense of wanting to be a good father. I've got a 2.5-year-old, and when she was born, there was a switch in my head that just changed in terms of priorities. I mean, my wife and my daughter are obviously the priority, and it's not just. I'm not just saying that. There's a feeling of they come first, and it's overwhelmingly there, especially now that I've got a daughter. It changed things completely, which is why I moved all of my meetings this morning so I could take her to school. It was a no-brainer for me. Yeah. But at the same time, as I've progressed in my let's call it my career, working at VW and Jendamark, and having this amazing opportunity to build a new let's call it a product and a division in our company that's all about this digitization and tech. I've always been a tech person. You would never be able to take me away from a computer or breaking something or trying to fix something or making something in my garage. Always wanting to do that, and now I have the opportunity to do that at work as part of my job. And I have this feeling of wanting to, and it's almost to your point now that I think about it, to show that success is not necessarily about the $1 billion. I want the $1 billion. Don't get me wrong. I'm chasing the $1 billion. I really want that. But it's about if I can make $1 billion by making a difference. I think it's what makes me get up. Which is why, as we see from a Jendamark perspective, our strategy is making the 4th Industrial Revolution more human. Using technology to unlock human potential is what we need in India and what we need in Africa, and it's what you need in the developed world as well. And so, yeah, I come to work and I want to achieve that. And I hope the $1 billion comes with that. I'm not going to bullshit you and tell you
I think the $1 billion are going to be a byproduct of all the effort and the passion. So like the same thing which I'm pretty sure, I'm confident, 100%, it's right knocking at the door, Yanni. So one thing which we are also trying, or we have now successfully, I think, doctrine in everyone's head, in India especially, because in India numbers get knocked down every day. One day this is a number you're trying to beat, the next day it's some other one's number, next big sales order. So you really can't chase numbers. If you're chasing numbers, you're going to end up always in a rat race and always following somebody. And that's what we realized a couple of years back in India. And so what we have now made everyone believe, and everyone now strongly believes that the idea is not just to get bigger, but better each day. And I think that's what is driving everyone, because you really can't always expect that let me get the next big order, then the next big order. But more than that, the idea is to what better can you do each day. Don't just grow bigger in size, in employees, in terms of revenues or the order values, but get it better every day. And I think that's what we are doing here now. And that brings me to my next question to Yanesh. We are waiting for you to come here soon. Everyone is like gung-ho about when is Yanesh coming here to India. So when is that going to happen, Yanni? I've got you in the right spot now.
It's on my to-do list.
Social commitment.
I'm going on
social
holiday next
commitment,
week.
Yanesh.
So not next week. I'm going on holiday next week, and then mid March I'm in the States chasing the $1 billion, and after that, Himanshu, I'm desperately wanting to come and see the team in Jendamark. COVID has been terrible, but actually, you know what I miss the most?
The
is
butter
the naan
naan.
bread.
The naan bread.
Butter, garlic butter naan, Goodwill. You've
No,
never
it's
had
no
a
joke.
garlic butter naan like you can get.
No, you can't. Yeah.
If you could package that and
100%.
export that, Himanshu, I'd be your biggest customer. I can tell you that.
Yeah. 100%. I'm pretty sure.
So in closing, I have a legacy question for you, Himanshu, to find out what you would want your legacy to be, and that question goes to Yanesh as well, because I think we ask it to our guests, but I'm very interested in what you want your legacy to be apart from the billion, and what your legacy would be. I before that I want to answer the question that you didn't ask me, which is what makes me wake up in the morning.
He's offended that you didn't ask him the question.
I don't know. When I was young, there were different things, Goodwill. I didn't want to ask you those questions.
Or the question is, what wakes you up in the morning? Not what you wake up for.
So for me, I think that I don't think that the Zuckerbergs and the Elon Musks and the Bezos and all the people that are considered to be the high end are special in any way. I think that we live in a society where there's this need to idolize people. I think that we are all the same, right? And I am waking up in the morning to disprove that narrative that you have to be born with something in order for you to be the greatest person there ever is. And I think that's the story that I want to tell, that you, regardless of where you're coming from, where you're starting, who you are, what color skin, what gender, you could be the Elon Musk or the Jeff Bezos in your story. And that's what has driven me, drives me, and I think will drive me until I go where I have to go, which is on the ground.
So I can tell you, Goodwill, in one simple word, if you want different outcomes, make different choices. So,
wow,
as simple as that.
Yeah, it comes down to the basics. So before we close, I just wanted to so Himanshu and I are both tech junkies, right? So if you allow me, can I ask him some tech questions, right? We are supposed to be a tech company, yeah?
Yeah.
So Himanshu, talking about your experience, I mean, we've had these discussions multiple times around the whole fourth industrial revolution and Industry 4.0. I really like to get an Indian take on what we should be doing with this whole Industry 4.0, fourth industrial revolution topic.
So I think most companies, a lot of companies, when the fourth industrial revolution buzzword started, everyone looked towards the West. That's the European and the US countries, US, and said, okay, let's do that because that's working there. It will work here as well. And a lot of money was put in, and then they realized the value out of it was almost zero. Nothing was actually being achieved to justify the huge investments made to make the fourth industrial revolution what the Europe and the US companies need to do as machine-centric. And I think over the last 3 years now, we have been really successful in India, and I'm very, very proud about that we have actually not just spoken about the fourth industrial revolution, making it more human-centric, but we actually have demonstrated that time and again now, and across almost 15 odd sites, customers. There are so many Odin workstations in India in several lines, and now people are seeing the value to it, and then they now relate that this actually solves the problems of a developing country like us and like South Africa. And I'm extremely happy to say that everyone has now embraced Odin, not just Odin in terms of the workstation and all other things which are the part of the workstation, but of course even the cloud systems which we have in Odin maintenance, Future Factory, Odin IoT. So everyone is now excited about it, and everyone is now not just excited in terms of the, like, what we initially we had was everyone was having this FOMO, fear of missing out. Oh, I don't know Industry 4.0, but now everyone actually is understanding it, asking the right relevant questions, implementing it with us as partners, discussing with us even the shortcomes and the successful things, and ensuring that we modify whatever is required to make it successful. And I think that for me is the human-centric approach that we are actually telling everyone is now being understood, is accepted, and now is sought after. So it's a big. It took a lot of time because we were actually fighting everyone's perception, but you're not putting sensors on the line. How will it be a fourth industrial revolution now? But then you have to go and explain them that, look, you don't need to put sensors, because every sensor you put on the line is going to fail at some point of time. But if you have an offline system, which we have, if you have an online cloud system, which we have, it will really make your current workforce more smarter, more intelligent. And now we are inundated with a lot of new inquiries, new customers, even from small to big. It's not just the big OEMs now, and I'm even talking to small scale industries. Even they want to have some or the other digital transformation because they understand the value of it now. And keeping it more human centric is the way forward for us, I'm sure. Of course, we'll add new aspects to our bucket of Odin ecosystem, but I feel the core should be and will be human centric, and that's what people are accepting in India and loving it in India for.
And I just want to make one statement before you ask your last question, is that I remember the day I met Himanshu at VW South Africa. He was sitting he was standing in the planning office. I was at Jendamark, and I was a sales guy wanting to obviously go and sell something there. And I met this crazy guy from India. I could tell he was from India, obviously from his accent. And he was there trying to understand how to assemble the polo axle, because in South Africa we're assembling the polo axle. And I don't know, for some reason, the guys at VW asked me to take him around to show him how the axle was assembled, because Jendamark had made the axle assembly line, and that's how we met. And yeah, we've been through a lot of ups and downs. I know Himanshu as a customer, I know Himanshu as a friend, and I know Himanshu as a colleague. And I know I don't often get a chance to say this, but I think you often say how much you learn from me, but I think the learning is mutual, put it that way. And the amazing work that Himanshu's been able to do through COVID with nobody and no real physical support from our side has been amazing. And I couldn't be more grateful for having Himanshu on the team. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Yanesh.
Wow, that's very heartfelt. Are you feeling it, Himanshu? It's very heartfelt.
Yeah, I'm almost
on your behalf.
No, it just brings out all the rough times, honestly. So it was quite emotional, to be honest, and I was not used to it, and to see all of that going around, and it was, and Yanesh told me before as well that it does get lonely at the top, but it gets extremely lonely in COVID at the top. So it was quite emotional period. You already are worried about your family and your relatives, and then there is the company, and then there's the people in the company, and there's so much of uncertainty, and there was so much of unsurety, ambiguity, and to navigate everyone and keep everyone on track. I think the best thing we did was just kept everyone on track. Do not worry about anything. Do not worry about what will happen, how it will happen. Just remain calm. And I think I lost my voice. I don't know if you remember that. I was talking 14, 15 hours a day, After a couple of months, I lost my voice completely. I couldn't talk. It was that, because I think the only thing I could do was just talk to people, just pick the phone and talk. Teams calls, talk. Was there's nothing else you could do. You're sitting in your house, and we are working. We were also lucky to get huge amount of orders right at the beginning of COVID. So we had to even get people to work and come and work for us. We had to organize so they were actually employees, Jendamark colleagues staying and sleeping in my cabin as well. I completely moved the first floor. We made a dormitory. We put a bathroom, showers, food. We were cooking food in Jendamark. So it was quite a overwhelming experience to see all of that. And for one common goal was to make sure we get all through this together. And I think that those were the images I think never get out of my head till my last breath, is to see employees sleeping in Jendamark day in, day out, playing in the evenings, cooking for themselves. So it was quite emotional. And again, I would have loved to have Yanesh and everyone else in from South Africa here, but we knew it. It was impossible. But we spoke a lot, and that was quite comforting as well, to know that there is somebody who's always watching you and looking after you. I think that was a big big booster for me to make sure I keep doing it.
And exercise in the morning. That's all I did.
Yeah. Yanni was the one who actually put me on a fitness regime, because I was just going completely bad. Anyways, yeah. So thanks, Yanesh, for being there. I appreciate that a lot, and I think we'll see each other soon now.
So then, what do you want your legacy to be, Himanshu?
Legacy. I think if I can make Yanesh play more golf, that's been my job description. So that's a big funny story.
Himanshu now reports directly to Siegfried, since he's the CEO. But when he was the sales director, the KPI in his performance appraisal was one line: the more golf I play, the better you're doing.
Yeah. So that was a funny story. But no. Yeah,
so if I have to go and get involved and do all these things on a daily basis, and I can't play golf, it means he's not doing a good job. Wow. But fortunately, every time I went to India, I played lots of golf, which is a sign of him doing very well.
So he plays golf as well?
No, he doesn't.
No, I don't. My job is to make everyone play golf.
I'd be playing golf and he'd be working.
Oh.
Yeah, that was the idea. That was a joke about that. That was a joke always, that the more golf Yanesh plays, the better I'm doing my job. So, but I think honestly, as a legacy, I'm too small, I think, to think of leaving a legacy behind. Modestly, I don't think so. That like I said, I'm at the point where we have just pulled the arrow back, and I think 10 years from now, maybe I can answer your question honestly. That's the legacy I have left behind. But I think more than talking about it, I believe in actionable things, and if everyone talks about it, then I think that was the legacy which I did for my work. So it would be very foolish of me to say that that's a legacy I would like to leave behind. I would rather have people talk about the legacy I have left behind.
Wow. Amazing answer.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Himanshu. Really appreciate Yanesh. Really exciting conversation to have with you guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Himanshu.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Goodwill. Thanks, Yanesh. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Bye.